Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I have with me Sam Fox, who is the founder of the UK Mortgage Centre. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see the UK MC in the background with Sam waving. Really smart studio, which we'll talk about shortly. Now, Sam has recently had a full rebrand and taken the business in a very vibrant and engaging direction. It's one that actually definitely caught my eye. I saw loads of it on LinkedIn, Instagram, and that's exactly why I wanted to get Sam on the podcast today, because he's doing something a bit different in the mortgage world and he looks different. And I believe, and he will probably tell you the same, the reason that he's done that is to appeal to his ideal client. So we're going to talk through the best type of content that he puts out when it comes to social media, how his free download guides, which are called lead magnets, if you've ever heard me talk about them on the podcast before, how they generate him business, how he does YouTube videos, and how he finds time to fit it all in. So, Sam, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the invite. It's always great to have a talk about mortgages in a world of today when it's in the news all the time. So it's nice to sit down and talk about it.
Awesome. And the great thing is, Sam, we were having a chat before we started the podcast. You're mad into marketing, aren't you? You are about as obsessed as me as marketing.
Yeah, it's to the point where we went to the cricket actually on Friday to watch England versus New Zealand at Old Trafford Cricket Ground, and sat there looking at the sponsorship boards. Like, that logo is a bit crap, isn't it? Why put that logo there? And my brother was just sat there going, "Will you shut up? Just watch the cricket." So yeah,
we were talking.
It becomes an obsession.
We were talking about obsession. Before we came on the podcast, we were talking about how before you hired somebody as head of marketing in your company, you'd have all these different ideas for videos. And one of the reasons you wanted to hire somebody in marketing was purely just to kind of like, Sam, shut up. We need to put these down on paper and we need to do X, Y, and Z instead of going off on so many different tangents. And we'll talk about that shortly. But before we get into it, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, Sam, can you give us a bit of a background as to who you are and how you've got to where you are today, please?
Yeah, sure. So as Chris kindly introduced, I'm Sam, founder of UK Mortgage Centre, which was formerly Warrington Mortgage Centre up until June this year. And I guess really, like most people, mortgages weren't my epiphany at the age of 16 to say, hey, I'm going to be a mortgage advisor. I actually started my career in music. When I got a music degree, I wanted to be a music producer and be really cool and go to LA and do all those sorts of weird and wonderful things and live a really great lifestyle. Found out very, very quickly that there's no money in it at all. I was working in a really, really well-known studio in Liverpool. The producer wasn't paying me anything. When I asked him if I'm going to be paid because I've got bills to pay, he just said, look, if you don't want to work for free, I'll get somebody else from the university. You're only going to make money unless your family bankroll you or your mum and dad own a studio. But other than that, you're not going to make any money. So I was like, oh, well, that's dampened my spirits. And then I was in a band for a bit. We weren't making any money. We were paying to play gigs. I was speaking to one of the lads at PMS about this the other week because he's still in a band. We were paying to play gigs all over the country. Wasn't earning any money from it. So I thought, you know what? It's not a bit of me, this. I'm fed up now.
Not for free. No,
I know when you see bands and they say, oh, it took us 20 years to make it. I was like, I'm just not that patient, to be honest. So my dad and my granddad, my granddad's just retired last year from being in financial services as a mortgage advisor. I spoke to them and said, listen, I need a gig. I'm fed up with the music, got a baby on the way, got a mortgage to pay for. And then they kind of said, well, why don't you look at do what we're doing? You can sell. You worked in call centers and stuff, so it's fine. So I got the books, passed the exams within 2 months, went back to them and said, oh, I've done all that now. What do I do? And they're like, oh, well, you need to find someone to work for. So we worked under a guy called Nick Partington in Wrexham. And he was the catalyst really for letting me do what we needed to do. I had one meeting in a pub for all its sins with people that I knew doing a fact find. And Nick was just like, you don't need much from me to get going. And that was it, really. Just kind of snowballed from there, worked under with him for a year. Then we were directly authorised in 2019 as Warrington Mortgage Centre. Not a real sexy name, but listen, it was like a tin of paint. It did exactly what it said on the tin. It was mortgages for people that are around Warrington and they could come into us. So that went down really well for a number of years, had some great sponsorship opportunities with local football clubs and professional rugby players. And then we started growing really quick through sort of August 2020 until now. We just kept growing and growing and growing. And it got to the stage at the start of the year where we were working with an agency and our internal marketing manager at the time, and I was like, it just feels like we might need to change this up, because we were speaking to somebody in Kent, going, "Hi,
Yeah.
it's from Warrington Mortgage Centre," and they were like, "Hey."
Right.
So
Okay. Yep.
we were like, "Oh yeah, see how now it's gonna cap us." But at the time, we were like, "Oh, Warrington." At the time, Warrington Mortgage Centre was the best thing ever, and it still is. It's still got a lot of heritage for how we do things here. But then it just kept. We needed to flip it on its head. So this year, we made the painstaking journey of going national, rebranding, relaunching, bringing all our staff together, and going for it again. So I hope. So in a long story short,
That was cool. That I didn't even
where
realise you. So from a music degree to mortgages, that's going to be the title of this podcast, I think. That's so. First things first. What did you play in the band? Were you a singer? Were you playing an instrument?
I was the drummer of all things.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, wasn't very
Class.
good. You know, I'd sit there in a little vest at the back with the drums out. But yeah, so I
Love it.
played the drums, did a little bit of piano. To be honest, I was just more there for the ride. I just loved live music and playing, and was just really enthusiastic about it. So that's where it was. Really played in a couple of bands,
Awesome.
signed to a little record label, but it didn't really work out.
So got into mortgages, and now you've got. Talk to us about your studio that you've got there. Then, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it. Is that the studio that you do all your videos in and record your content?
Yeah, so we've got to this side, we've got a big 75-inch screen that we do like presentations to staff. We do our training in here as well. So it's like a multi-use room that's got all the soundproofing. So we on filming days we'll change it into a studio. We've got like this set here, we've got a set over there with like different arrows on the wall and orange chairs. More like an interview style setup. So we just try to use the space as best as possible to get our own content that looks really good, really professional, but it's literally like through the next door is where everybody else is working.
So it's all within the office. Nice. Right. So we talked about how you got to there today. Let's talk about that rebrand from Warrington into UK Mortgage Centre. Why did you do it first? And secondly, what difference has it made to your marketing, your clientele, your staff? How different is it with that branding?
If we go from the start, as I said, we were working with more and more customers outside of Warrington, and it become a little bit of a sticking point with people saying, "Well, why would I use you if you're in Warrington when I'm based in Birmingham when I can find somebody local?" So it's weird how the human mind works, that geographical location can change your buying habit. But if we're national, people are like, "Oh yeah, sound you're a UK-wide company, we'll use you." So we will. What we did first, and this was probably a mistake that we learned quite quickly. So last summer, we launched UK Mortgage Centre as a sister company. So we had Warrington and we had UK. We had one team in Warrington, we had one team in UK. Warrington had all inbound leads, nice and local, estate agents, referral partners, all passing work in. And UK work was kind of like lead magnets, lead funnels, paid work that we brought in. And the conversions and attitudes and all of that were totally different. So we had Warrington that was performing really well, but then UK, we couldn't find that secret sauce as to why they're not having the same experiences. So after about 3 or 4 months going into the winter months, we're like, something's just not clicking into place. Warrington are all coming in with a smile on their face, but the UK team are kind of like got a few headaches. So in the January, we sat down and we reviewed it all, and I was like, I think everyone's going to hate me for saying this, but I think we need to get rid of Warrington. And obviously everyone's head was like,
that's your baby. Do you know what I mean? That's what you've created.
So I had a couple of sleepless nights thinking of it, and I said, you're all going to hate me for it. And yes, everyone knows it. Everyone locally within like a 4-mile radius knows who we are. We built up I'd like to think we built up a really great reputation locally for great service. I was like, we are going to lose that. But to go from where we are now to where we want to be in the future, Warrington's never going to fit that map, like whichever way we look at it. So once I talked the team around to the idea, I said, so instead of having Warrington and UK, we're going to put them both together. We're going to merge both systems, both teams. What that's going to do is the experienced people in Warrington are going to be able to share their knowledge with the UK team and bring them up to how we want them to be. We can buddy people up better where we have different teams sat in different parts of the office. So looking back now, it's like, we started off really shit. Like, what a bad decision. We should have done this from the start. So then we instructed an agency. So an agency based out in Manchester to have a look at it all, have a look at the branding, gave them the brief, and we are today. And I basically said to them on the rebrand, how I see this is a really weird analogy of it all, but how I see UKMC is I want it to be like a product that if you're going through Waitrose, Asda, Lidl, no matter where you are, and you get to that section where you've got like your pre-made coffees and your milkshakes and all of that and your energy drinks, I want us to resonate as if we were an ice cold product in the energy drink section that was natural and healthy for you, but it was so brightly colored and enthusiastic that you would walk past and go, "Oh, I'm going to try that because it looks so it looks awesome."
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
So I said to them about the brief, I was like, eventually I want to make an energy drink as like a bit of a marketing tool that we can give to people at events and stuff that's all branded up, but it tastes insane. And I want people's experience to be insane. So when they see our brand, they're like, without a shadow of a doubt, I know that these guys are going to have my back. They've got the shit together and they're going to make sure that my mortgage is an absolute breeze because they're so easy to deal with. And that's the brief I gave them. And I was in a room and they're all kind of like,
Did I say something on LinkedIn about this? I'm sure I've heard this story
possibly
before. Yeah, I think,
yeah.
and I remember looking at it going, yeah, it's quite an out there thing to almost productize a mortgage service because it's not tangible. There's nothing there. So to productize it is a tough job. And now looking at your peaks of the mountains, almost like a coffee, a cold brew, but that kind of branding, I can see exactly where it fits now. And did they talk to you about the colors that you wanted to use and who your ideal target audience was?
Yeah, we went through all that. So we built client avatars. Client avatars, if nobody's heard of them, is mapping out genuinely down to your ideal client, the hair color, the eye color, what they read, what they watch on TV, what they eat throughout the day. We went through, we kind of gave them all of that. The age brackets, the demographics, their interests, along with the energy drink analogy of what we want the brands to stand out like. They came back with a few variations, and one of them was the fonts and the branding and the colors. And as soon as they shown it us, they presented to 5 of us, and all of us just straight away was like, "That's it. That is the idea that we're gonna rock and roll with."
Awesome. I love it. I love the branding. And if you are listening to this on a podcast, please check out their channels or check out the video on YouTube on this one because you'll see behind Sam there. Fantastic branding. Really love it.
Thanks, mate.
So we got the branding done, and that branding is perfect for your ideal client avatar. So we've got that done. Now you want to talk about how you start generating leads. So without going into the social media side of things, let's talk about your website. Now, on your website, on every page, when I'm talking like your remortgage, your mortgage, your homeowners, home movers, your buy to let, your protection, your insurance, etc., you have downloadable guides that people can download and read through. And those guides are full of hints and tips. How do they help you as a business, Sam?
Well, twofold, really. We tend to see different points in the year, we'll see different trends where someone will download a brochure and then within like 40 minutes make an inquiry anyway. So it helps that sort of buying decision. So you'll obviously get the email address and that'll filter into one set of automation, but then they'll also make an inquiry and it'll filter into another set of automation. So it helps brands understand sort of the language that we use. So all our guides I've written and there's kind of like tweaked it here and there so as we've written as if I'm explaining what a fixed term mortgage is rather than like a really formal way. So it's like almost like I don't like saying this, but it's like a dummy's guide to a mortgage or a remortgage, but it's essentially how we would speak to customers to understand finances, and it gives them key areas to have a look and have a think through. It goes through what documents they might need. So it helps educate our target audience that if they hit submit an inquiry, what we're going to be expecting of them. So it kind of builds that trust already that they kind of know what to expect. So they're going to go ahead and make an inquiry. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just sit in an email sequence and they might approach us in a year later or 2 years later. Or what it's given us, it's given that data of consumers of like, during these periods of the year, we've had 100 downloads the first time buyer guide. And of that, we know that 14% of them have converted into an appointment. And then of that, 6% of them are converted into an application. Then on the actual figures, I'm just telling you as a rough guide. It just helps us as a business communicate with customers without actually ringing them on the phone, and help build up that presence that we have these downloadable guides and they can find out more information without actually having to have that daunting, like, can you help me mortgage? You don't know what I'm doing, but I'm a bit not clued up on this. So it's just giving them a little something. It's giving them a piece of skin before they commit to us.
And that And what Sam's talked about there, if you've never heard of lead magnets, it's as what will happen. They'll go onto their website, onto your website. I have to put their email address in to download that guide, which is full of hints and tips. And I love the way that it's in your voice, Sam. So it's if they pick up the phone to you or your team, they're going to speak very similarly to what's in the PDF. But what then happens is Sam has automation software in the background that will email them maybe every week or every few days after saying, look, we see you've downloaded the first time buyer's guide. Our team is here to help if you need us. If you are wondering if we can help you anymore, here's our YouTube channel or social media channels. And it's like it's touch pointing your clients, isn't it? Until the point where you don't want to do it too much, you pee them off, but you don't want to do it too little, so you're kept front of mind. And then hopefully that these guys will pick up the phone and go, right, I've had 5 emails from the UK Mortgage Centre over the last 2 months. I'm going to pick up the phone to these guys. So that's the idea behind the lead magnets, they're called, and how Sam targets them with emails. So lead generation and lead magnets is part of your marketing plan. Do you have a marketing plan when it comes to like print advertising or social media advertising?
Print, no. We've tried print in the past, but I think the way our industry is naturally moving, the paradigm shift from print is more digital. It's all online. So we do little bits of print every now and then with like local publications that if something happens, or the rebrand was in a couple of local magazines and papers and stuff. But the online stuff certainly is more strategic. So if I use first time buyers, for example, we're basically answering questions for them without them asking us. So we'll do some research online and find out exactly what first-time buyers are asking. And Chris, I'm sure you know that the tools available to anyone to go online and find out what people are asking in the Google search engines. And then we'll basically map it out. So let's say someone's going to buy a house for the first time. We then reverse engineer that to go, okay, well, in my first initial meeting with a client, what do I go through? Right, I talk to them through every step of the home buying process. So I'll talk to them about what affordability is, what a stress test is, what evaluation is. But then rather than me doing a video explaining the same things over and over again, or being in meetings explaining it over again, you can break that down into like a series of, let's say, 20 videos, and you could do 20 2-3 minute videos explaining exactly what each topic is for that customer. So that first time buyer, let's say they follow your lead magnet, they download the guide, they find the YouTube channel, they've got the written information, but then they've also got information from us, a 2-minute bite-sized video saying, right, a property survey, there are 3 different types. Here's number 1, here's number 2, here's number 3. This is what they all mean. This is when you might need to use them. This might be what the cost might be. But look, if you need more information, give me a shout. And it's like, oh, this is what an agreement in principle is. An agreement in principle can be called this, and so you're breaking it down in front of them. So when we're looking at social media schedules, if we're picking a time of year, like this year, we've been probably against the grain a little bit, because I've been like, hell, let's go first time buyers, because we know that market is going to come back around again, and we don't want to be just constantly talking about remortgages. Yes, we know there's 1.8 million remortgages that need to happen this year, and every broker's talking about remortgages, but the fundamentals of our business and our sustainability ethos is first time buyers. So let's continue to break that down for them. So we'll pick a topic of like how to make an offer on a property. We'll do one long video, which might be 6 minutes long, but then break that down into 4 weeks of social media minis of like little snippets and little clips of key points that will explain, but then telling them about the longer video, they can watch it all in one go.
Sorry to interrupt, but how hard is that as a director of a business saying, we know that these videos aren't going to bring us business right now for first time buyer? It must be so hard for you going, we're going to create loads of content to help us next year. And normal business owners be like, well, what can I do now to generate leads? Because that's what we always talk about, isn't it? How can we buy leads? How can we get leads quick? How can we get business through the door? It must be hard for you to sit there and go, I'm going to build a plan for next year.
Yeah, they do, like a couple of the guys in the office would be like, hey, shouldn't we talk about the cost of living? We're going to do all of that, and we've got content scheduled in our plan for sort of October onwards to talk about that stuff. But it is hard and a bit like, do we just jump ship and follow what everyone else is going to do and say like, debt con, sort your mortgage out. There's only 6 months left. Like we talk about that anyway, and we always will do. But the reality is, when you understand your sort of ideal customer, you can work out your expected costs, your expected profits, the service of the customer. And when you get them customers who ring you up and go, "Hi, I've seen your videos. I'm a first-time buyer." They are the absolute best customers to work with. So if we
Just
can,
like a little fist bump, kind of like,
yeah,
yes, it worked.
like good credit, 3 pay slips. That's the one. But if we can build up that reputation, like, and stick to what we know and stick to our core and our ethos, we can service all types of mortgages. But we know our ideal client, when they come around, they're going to be ready. They know what documents they need. They know what experience they're going to get with us. They're fast. So it's kind of like appointment booked, information documents in, AIP, purchase made. They're really great customers to work with. And I think sometimes as an industry, we've been there, we've been doing it at the moment. We get sucked in and go, right, we need a 50 new leads. Let's go and spend a lot of money, 50 leads, bring them in tomorrow, work them, and you're getting customers who aren't your ideal client, and difficult to work with. It's lower value, you're working longer, you're working harder on them. And that's not a bad thing at all, because every business will work with customers. But if you can bring in more of the organic good stuff that helps tick the guys along, then that's where we want to be. So we know
this is the argument between paid advertising and paid social media and organic social media. Paid social media, the leads aren't going to be hot because they know nothing about you. They've just clicked on an advert. And let's be honest, it's probably not the first advert they've clicked on to get mortgage advice. Whereas your organic ones, your warmed up leads that Sam was talking about, is Sam's done a video about the 3 different types of surveys. He's told the first time buyers what documents they need for their first appointment and what he thinks the market's going to be like in the next 12 months. So when that first time buyer picks up the phone, they've seen Sam, they know his voice, and they've got the pay slips ready. Those are much better leads to be generating if you can do it organically, but it takes longer, doesn't it? So you've got a plan for all your social media. You've got everything lined up, and we'll give a shout out to Emma, your head of marketing, you say? Yeah? Because you said she's fantastic. She's reined you in over the last 12 months to really have a proper plan. Talk us through the process from generating an idea to recording, to put it out there, to chopping up videos. What's the step-by-step process from beginning to end for you guys, Sam?
I suppose really you start with the research. So we'll have a look at online, see what videos of ours have performed well in the past, ones that haven't, ones that have. We'll look at the current market conditions. We'll have a chat with the advisors to try and understand what frequent questions they're being asked, if that can support it. Once we get like a nucleus of like the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk about these topics based on this research. We'll then break it down into understanding the most suitable titles. We'll start looking at like the key points in the messaging in the video. So if we're going to do one on surveys, what sort of figures do we need to have available? If we're going to look at, the average cost of a solicitor, we need to do the research in terms of costs locally and nationally of solicitors, what people need to budget for. And then we'll go into kind of like a scripting phase. So we'll go into, these particular videos, what they're going to be used for. Well, this set are going to be used for reels. So we're going to shoot these on a different day because we're going to do a different format. But the ones that are kind of like YouTube based, very information, right? Let's build up the scripts. We'll do the scripts. Emma will write them. I'll review them. We'll go back and forward. We'll do a bit of a test of them to see how long that they are. And then once we've got to that stage and we've got, say, 8 YouTube style videos between sort of like 2 minutes and 6 minutes ready, we'll then book out this room, and we'll get our camera, we'll get all the rooms set up with all the lights and all that kind of thing, and then we'll basically book it out for 2 or 3 days and just get all the content shot. And then based on those topics, we'll do an off the cuff one where Emma will just read out questions that I don't know she's going to ask me relative to the topics, and then I get those for like for reels and stuff. So it's the same content but delivered in a different way. So a reel is kind of like you're going to ask me a question and I have to give you a 30-second answer as quick as I can, where the long form stuff is very more, we're going to get 6 minutes worth of content, but then we're going to use that across all our social media channels as well. So it does take a little bit of time, but we know working in this way, we can get a month or 6 weeks ahead. So at the moment, I think Emma's got videos now scheduled or ready and polished and were finalized for the next 6 weeks. And she's just now reusing all of them in Square for Instagram, converting them to reels and all that sort of stuff. So it just means having that formulated process, we can get ahead of where we want to be, and then it can just run like clockwork then, and we can be focusing on what happens in November, what's our Christmas campaign, what we're going to do is our charitable donations in December, what we're going to get the teams to do. Are we going to do the Great British Bake Off like we did last year because the office loved it? So it just means that we're not falling behind. We're just keeping ahead. It's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It is. It sometimes seems overkill, but I think when you work, it's not just you and you're working with somebody else. You have to make sure that everything is like crystal clear of what you're doing going forward.
And the thing is, you've got to make sure that everything is crystal clear because you're talking to first-time buyers as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what I like you talking about there is the content that you're creating is essentially what you're speaking to people about on the phone in an appointment. It's not, with all due respect, it's not rocket science. It's what you're speaking to people about day in, day out. So why not use that for the basis of the content? And I think we think that our social media posts should be amazing to go, in inverted commas, viral. And it's not. The best type of content is the stuff that's consistent with what you do on a day-to-day basis. What you spoke about was kind of questions that you get asked on calls and what you'll speak to people about on the phone call. I always think the best way for people to find social media post ideas is to have a notebook by the side of you and write down all the questions that you're asked on a phone call. You'll probably know they make great social media content, don't they?
Yeah. It's like one of the most frequently asked questions as a broker is you'll be presenting an illustration and they'll go, oh, why is my first mortgage payment much higher than the next 23? And you have to explain the way that the banks work with the payment dates, the direct debit runs, and the day's worth of interest. Like that is I might write that down, actually, do that one. But that's like, do you know what I mean? That is every first time buyer, 99% of the time will always go, why is my first payment more expensive than my next one? And that's the sort of question. It's like, you could, I don't know what the headline would be, but understand the mortgage before your first payment comes out, and don't avoid this mistake of not having enough money in your bank before your first mortgage payment.
Yeah, good point. Little things like that, especially for first-time buyers that will only, you know what I mean? They've saved so hard for that deposit. That first month is going to be challenging, to say the least. Okay, awesome. So we've talked about the strategy, we've talked about the plan, we've talked about the actual content. How do you fit it all in?
Don't know. Honestly, it is a challenge. I'm pulled from pillar to post, but like most mortgage advisors, especially over the last 12 months. I mean, I genuinely don't advise as much as I do. I might do one customer a month, but that's, me speaking to a customer and passing it to the team to conduct all the research, me qualify and speak to them if it's like a high net worth individual, a really complex case that the advisors want me to have some input in. It's just planning. I mean, me and Emma have a monthly meeting. We have a weekly meeting. The monthly one sets out the plan for the month. The weekly one is to make sure that we're on target. And to be honest with you, it's more her nagging me to say, Sam, you've not done this. You've not done this. I need you to review these videos, rather than the other way around. So like we said before we started the podcast, without Emma, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are now, because because I've got her to hold me accountable, which is sometimes you don't have if you're on your own. You think, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. But I've got Emma sat there going, Sam, we need to do a video. You keep changing it in the diary. I've got meetings booked in. Why? And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Someone keeps you accountable.
Yeah. So it holds us accountable, which just keeps it going, which is great. I'm dreading it when she goes on holiday for 2 weeks.
Yeah, just get her to listen to this podcast and then just get some of the ideas for you to save her doing them when she's away. But what I was going to say, marketing, obviously Emma as a marketing manager, not many mortgage brokers that have that, because we spoke about this before we came on the podcast. If you had an ability to spend some money on something, people would automatically think admin or another mortgage broker, wouldn't they? What benefit have you seen of hiring a market manager over hiring an admin or a couple of admin or another mortgage broker?
The other thing on that, Chris, is leads. Brokers would go, oh, I'll just spend £500 on leads instead and moan about them.
But yeah, they're not picking up.
One in 10's converted. But I think it's so key. I don't know, as I said before, how we've got where we are without Emma. We've worked with agencies.
As you said before, you were the person of the leads, weren't you? You were like, I'll go and buy them in. It took you a mindset shift to go from living hand to mouth, essentially, to building a plan for the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah. Well, we were saying it at the time. I was like, I'm struggling to keep up. The agency we're working with are asking me to create blogs, create content, create video ideas. And the agency at the time were just like, send us this, we'll produce it and we'll post it. It wasn't kind of like, oh, we'll do this and we'll do this. Anything outside of the retainer, they were like, oh, well, we can charge you more. And I was just in this like vicious circle of not having enough time to create content, but then they were sending me stuff that was shit, and I was like, I'm not happy with this. I've given you the content, you're producing crap work. So we made the decision as, look, I need someone who fits the demographic we're looking for, somebody who's young, who is a homeowner, who lives in the local, because at the time we were Warrington, like who lives in the local area. And I get this is like very cliche and very niche of me to be stereotypical of who I wanted, but it was important for me to have that person that could hold me accountable, but will understand what I'm saying and drive it forward. And it's been the best thing that we've ever done, purely because I've got somebody there who holds me accountable and vice versa to help drive it forward and challenges the content that I'm suggesting we put out as well, which can only in turn make it better. Sometimes we'll argue and say, no, I believe this, and Emma will be saying we should do it this way. And then we'll come to loggerheads and think, actually, let's just try both ways. Let's try your way, let's try my way, let's review the data, and the data will tell us which sort of content performs
Who
better.
wins? And then the other person goes, see, told you.
But I mean, from a broker's point of view, there's always going to be that, oh, well, I could spend that money on leads, or I could spend it on another broker, or I could spend it on an admin. And for me, it was kind of like, I don't want... The mindset I had was I want to build a brand. So I want to build a brand that in 15 years, I can sit there with my kids and go, look, I am so proud of what we've achieved. We've helped so many homeowners. We've built a brand that's recognized not only by industry peers, but it's recognized as a household name. For me, that means more really than the numbers afterwards. And I was like, so we could go and buy another 100 leads, but they don't give a shit about our brand. They couldn't give a shit if we're here in 2 years' time. They're not asked how late I work at night. And I was kind of like, well, we don't want them clients because they're not our ideal clients. So by bringing Emma on board, it's allowed us to realign our goals. Yeah, it's a long game with all social media, and 10 people might see a post and your nan might share it once in a while and you think, oh, what's going on? And I debate what you're doing. But as long as you stick to it and you stick at it and you're consistent with your brand and your messaging and who you believe or what you believe your company can be, then it's the best thing, and it just help it grow far more than any purchase leads that are coming in. Every broker wants 1,000 inbound inquiries. Reality is we're not going to get it. So we need multiple sources. But if your core business is built around your ideal client, then it means that your advisors are happier because they're getting better quality leads. They've got better conversions. They're writing more business. They're having a great lifestyle. So overall, it's just a great decision that we've made. It might not work for everyone. I'm not saying a one-man band broker should go and hire a brand manager. We were at the stage where we had 11 people here and it was a totally different kettle of fish. But there's always that, depending on whether you want to be a broker and kind of just see clients yourself, or you want to build a brand. And I think that really helps you determine which kind of way that you go with it.
And your brand is there to create a legacy, of course it is, and also to bring in leads. But speaking to one of our clients, and you guys are probably the same, the reason he hired us to do his social media is because he wanted people to want to come and work for him. So quite a big company, and go, I want us to look professional. I want us to have a brand. I want us to be topical. And it's not to generate leads at all, because he knows that it takes a long time. It's more for the people that are maybe have been self-employed and struggling to get that business, or a part of a business that they're not happy with. They see this company and think, yeah, I'd like to work for them. And that's probably crossed your mind. You want to be a company that people want to come and work for, aren't you?
Definitely, because people put the effort in then. They care.
Yep.
We want our staff to care about this business just as much as we do. And that shows when, and I don't advocate this at all, but, when you've got guys working till 8, 9 o'clock at night because they want to go the extra mile from a customer, they could quite easily switch off at 5:30, go home, have the tea, forget about it. But, these guys care about the business just as much as we do. And if you can build a team that care about the business just as much as you, the end result is the consumer outcomes are going to be far better than if someone just working in a brokerage, just getting leads in, just giving advice, just taking orders. It's not really sexy, is it? But if you've got someone who comes in, they're in half an hour early, they're passionate about the job that they're doing, you can see it in the face that they want to excel themselves, they want to progress, they want a promotion, and they love working for the company. When I walk in, I'm like, how fucking cool is this?
You've built something that people want to work at.
Yeah.
Incredible. We've covered quite a lot here. So before we get into the strategy question, we're going to ask you, which charity would you like us to make a £10 donation to say thank you for coming on?
Well, I would say we're about to go through our carbon neutral assessment. We had our call yesterday with Positive Planet. We're carbon neutral last year. We've got to do it all again for this year.
Oh,
So
awesome.
it's part of our ethos of giving back. We for every mortgage transaction, we donate a tree in the Scottish Highlands. So we've got an online page on our website where you can go. It's called Trees for Life, and they're rewilding in the Scottish Highlands, and it's £5 a tree. So rather than me picking a
Awesome.
charity and the other one's saying, "Why haven't you given it to us? Why don't you donate 2 trees on our behalf?"
Perfect. We will do that for you. Right, into the strategy question. So we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've
Yeah.
got a laptop, a mobile phone, and an internet connection, and you don't have Emma, because I know she's your right-hand woman for this. What would you do to start generating new mortgage business, Sam?
So if I was in a new area, start a mortgage business. Right. So what I would do is I would find out where all the online communities are. So I'm talking all the Facebook groups, like local areas. If I was based in Edinburgh, for example, I'd try and join all the buy it, sell it, swap it ones. When I join those groups and all the community pages, I would send a message direct to the admins to say, "Hi, I'm Sam. I'm new to the area. This is what I do. I post relevant content to help first-time buyers. I'm not looking to advertise business, but I'm going to share information that should help people in the local area understand the finances." I'd get their approval of how many times a week I can post on those channels. I've actually done this locally, which is why I know it will generate business. The pages where it's got a banner at the top and it's blank, or it's just a picture, I would say, as part of this, can I pay to a charity of your choice, like 200 quid, to put my banner at the top? So if someone's got 50,000 members in a community group, first thing is this page is sponsored by Sam Fox Mortgage Advisor, and we've spent £250 at the local food bank, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd get them in there. And then what I would do is, now I've got the say so. I'm not just going to be an arsehole and just post loads of content on there and not ask permission. The admins of the page are like, "Oh, this guy seems quite genuine." What I would then do is, in my local area, I would go around with my phone. I would find what's for sale on Rightmove, and I'd do a video outside the house and go, "I'm just outside this house here. It's on the market, the 3-bed property, and for XYZ. And I'm going to show you how much this property could cost you." And then I'd do like a cut back to some calculations and be like, if you're going to buy it with 90%, roughly in the market, it's going to be this. If you buy with a 5% deposit, 10% deposit, this is what you're looking to do. Here's your household bills. If you want any more information on this particular property, all you need to do is give me a shout, and I'll help make sure that you're mortgage ready before you buy it. And then what I would do with them videos is I'd post them to my Facebook page, but then I would share them personally into the groups with an additional comment to be like, "Hey guys, I'm new to the area, just trying to educate everyone on what properties are in Edinburgh," for example. And then what I'm doing is I'm purposely going out my way to give myself an early grave of all this content I've got to create. But what that shows online is that you are going way, way, way above where you need to be in order to get people to understand who you are. And I think that would build up a brand quite quick. We'll probably get some inquiries. And if people go, "Do you know what? He's quite new to the area, sponsoring the pages in the local communities," it just gets your face out there a lot quicker.
Right.
Anybody
listening to this podcast, you'd have thought that was fully rehearsed. But I asked before we started this podcast, I said to Sam, "Did you get the strategy question via email?" And it must have got lost in the inbox or something. And he was like, "No." And he's just done that straight off the bat. So that shows he's actually done that, because I always believe if you can give a 15-minute presentation on something that you're passionate about, you'd fill those 15 minutes. And it's exactly what you've done there. Utilizing Facebook groups at the minute. Facebook is not dead. A lot of people I'm hearing speaking about is saying, "Oh, it's Instagram, it's TikTok." Do not forget about the OG that is Facebook, because it is such a powerful platform. Love the idea of the banners. Nobody's ever brought that up on this podcast. I think that's incredible. And just being a genuine person, messaging the admin and saying, "Look, do you mind?" Well, I bet there's not many people that would do that. They would just get in there and flood the Facebook and then get banned the week after, and then they're back to square one and go,
"Buy my product, buy my product, buy my product."
Yeah.
Yes, you want them to do that, but you want them to be like, "Oh, I've seen you over the last, you posted something every week and it's been relevant. I've actually seen that house on Rightmove and I'm looking to buy it. So can I speak to you about it?" Absolutely. We had true story this actually. So where our original office is based that we still have, there was a local community page there, and it had like, I can't remember, it was like 25,000 people in there. And I remember sitting there, I was like, "How do we get this message out?" And then I messaged the admin and I genuinely said this to them, like, would it be possible that I can give you some feedback? I think what you should do is monetize this Facebook group to raise money for charities or organizations in the local area, and get your community of 25,000 people to vote on where this money's donated to. So I explained it to the woman, I was like, so what we'll do is I'll give you 250 quid, and you put a poll in your local community as to where the sponsorship money is coming from and where it should be donated. And they did a poll, and I'm sure one of them went to like a local food bank, and all the people like, oh, what a great idea this is. That's amazing. Great incentive. And that was 3 years ago. And still to this day, every month, businesses pay £250 to local charities in that area. And we started that. And
wicked.
So that's like a real feel-good story. But then when we share content every week, it's always approved with the ad. We don't do it every week, but when I feel like a video is relevant, we'll share it. The admins will reshare it. The admins will then share it on their own personal Facebooks, and it's always approved. It's never declined, and you tend to get people commenting and liking or loving or resharing the video as well. So it just helps build that community. But if someone's got our local page and it's not doing that, then the first thing I would do if they listen to the podcast, I'd message them. I'd suggest making it a charitable cause to raise money for local causes, even if it's like a local rugby team need 250 quid for a new kit. You do that, put your name out there. It builds trust in the local community. It puts like an audience around your business of trust. So that's what I would do.
Massive, absolutely massive. Guys, go and rewind the last 7 minutes of this podcast and go and take notes of everything that Sam's just said, because I think that's incredible. Sam, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. Spoke about so much value. I think, just to recap, talking about your ideal clients, talking about how you want to productize your brand, how you've got a plan behind your social media content, I think is massive, because without a plan, we don't really deliver, do we? And then that bit about moving to the north of Scotland, fantastic answers. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate your time.
Pleasure, mate. As always.
Cheers, thank you. Where's the best place, before I cut off, sorry, where's the best place people can connect with you if they want to get in touch, Sam?
LinkedIn. I'm always rambling on about random stuff on LinkedIn. Don't even know what the handle is, but just type in Sam Fox or UK Mortgage Centre and me and the team will probably come up. Just send me a connection request and happy to accept it. Or have a look on our website and find my email from there.
Fantastic. Please go and take a look at the website, because the colours, the design, I think is fantastic. Thank you very much for coming on, Sam. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers.